story opens on the roads of the San Fernando Valley, where a young woman named Natalie is driving. Without warning, a landslide slams into her car and sends it over a cliff. The vehicle wedges against the rocks, trapping her inside. Moments later, a Los Angeles Fire Department rescue team led by Raymond Gaines arrives by helicopter. Joby, one of the crew, clips into a rope and descends to reach Natalie. The car keeps slipping downward, so he tries to stabilize it first. It slides again and crushes his hand against the frame. Raymond drops down, forces the door open, and pulls Natalie free. They deliberately release the car. Joby swings away just in time, and the team completes the rescue. But the real shaking was only beginning. Welcome to San Andreas. We cut to the California Institute of Technology. Dr. Lawrence Hayes is giving a lecture on the history of devastating earthquakes around the world. He explains that the San Andreas Fault, a massive crack in the Earth's crust, runs through the heart of California, separating two constantly moving plates. Because of that motion, a major quake strikes roughly every 150 years, and it has been more than a century since the last big one. After class, Dr. Kim Park tells Hayes that small quakes have been recorded across 23 points in Nevada over the past day. They head to the nearby Hoover Dam to investigate. If they can arrive while the tremors continue, they can test their theory and predict when a large quake might hit. Elsewhere, Raymond plans to spend his day off camping with his daughter, Blake. When he gets home, he finds an envelope containing divorce papers from his wife, Emma. Blake calls to say their trip is off because she is going out with her mom and Emma's new partner, Daniel. The news hits Raymond hard. He looks over photos of his two daughters from happier days, and we learn the other daughter drowned during a rafting trip. At the dam, Hayes and Kim set up instruments. Kim goes inside to record seismic activity, which keeps rising. The ground suddenly shakes with violent force and cracks tear through the structure. People run for safety. Hayes helps evacuate the area, while Kim sprints for the exit. On his way out, he spots a crying child and carries her toward safety. A larger fracture opens, forcing Kim to throw the child to Hayes. Metal debris pins Kim's leg. The dam fails, water surges through, and Kim is swept away. Hayes witnesses the disaster and the loss of his colleague. Meanwhile, Raymond receives a message from his supervisor. A major quake has struck Nevada, and his team is being deployed. Before leaving, he stops to drop off Blake's things and runs into Blake, Emma, and Daniel. Emma tells him that she and Blake will be moving with Daniel. Frustrated, Raymond walks out. Daniel takes Blake to his office, and she waits in the lobby. In the lobby, Blake meets a young man named Ben, who's there looking for a job. He's brought his little brother Ollie along with him. The two of them are just trying to figure things out in the city. Meanwhile, Dr. Hayes is being interviewed about the disaster at the dam. During the interview, his colleagues rush in with new data. Strong seismic activity is now being detected along the entire San Andreas Fault. Hayes checks the maps again, runs through the numbers, and realizes the worst-case scenario is happening. The entire fault line is about to rupture. Back in downtown Los Angeles, Emma is having lunch with Daniel's sister. Raymond calls to apologize for how he has acted. But before the conversation can go anywhere, a massive quake hits the city. The restaurant shakes violently. Raymond hears the chaos through the phone and immediately heads there by helicopter. As he flies, he watches the freeways break apart and buildings collapse below. At the same time, Blake and Daniel are leaving the parking structure in Daniel's car. The quake hits hard and the parking levels collapse. The car is thrown into the rubble and Blake becomes trapped, her leg pinned between the crushed seats. The driver is killed in the impact. Daniel panics, says he'll go get help, and climbs out, leaving Blake behind. He finds a security guard, quickly tells him someone is trapped, then runs off with the crowd. Ben and Ollie overhear this. Without hesitating, they go searching for Blake themselves. Up above the city, Raymond continues flying, seeing destruction in every direction. Emma is fighting her own battle inside the collapsing restaurant, guiding others toward safety, climbing floor after floor until she reaches the roof. But the rooftop begins to crumble and she falls, knocking herself unconscious. When she wakes, she forces herself to climb again. Raymond spots her from the helicopter and moves in. An explosion sparks a fire, forcing Emma to relocate to a safer ledge. Raymond lowers a rescue line, and Emma runs for it as the rooftop gives way beneath her. She grabs it in time, and Raymond pulls her up. Meanwhile, Blake manages to reach her phone. She calls Raymond and begs for help. He changes course immediately. Soon after, Ben and Ollie find her. They try different methods, working together through the debris. It's difficult and slow, but eventually they manage to free her from the car and pull her out of the wreckage. Ben then tells Blake that he ran into Daniel earlier and that Daniel had deliberately left her behind. There's no time to dwell on it, so the three of them immediately start looking for a way out of the building. Meanwhile, Dr. Hayes and his team analyze the new seismic data. They determine that the disaster is far from over. Hayes asks the reporter to broadcast a warning. A much larger earthquake is expected, stretching across California and potentially affecting the East Coast. People in San Francisco are urged to evacuate as soon as possible. Back with Blake, Ben, and Ollie, they enter a small electronics shop. With the power out across the city, they need an older phone that can still work. After finding one, Blake calls her mother and tells her what Daniel did. Hearing this, both Emma and Raymond are furious. Raymond instructs Blake to head to higher ground and tells her to wait at a tall tower so he can come get her. Ben tries calling his own parents next, but the number doesn't go through. At the same time, the helicopter carrying Raymond and Emma suddenly suffers a mechanical failure and explodes. Raymond manages to make an emergency landing on a city street. They survive, but the city is in chaos. Looters are taking advantage of the disaster, breaking into stores. Raymond ends up taking a car from one of the looters. When confronted, he quickly overpowers the man, and he and Emma drive away. As they continue, they come across an elderly couple stranded because their car has broken down. The couple warns them that the road ahead is severely damaged. Raymond offers them a ride and takes them to a nearby airfield. It turns out the older man works in aviation and allows Raymond to use his small plane. In exchange, Raymond gives them the car so they can evacuate to their son's home in the mountains. We return to Blake, Ben, and Ollie, now moving with a crowd being directed by emergency responders. Along the way, Blake spots an abandoned fire truck and grabs some useful gear. Just then, Ben notices that the tower Raymond told them to reach is surrounded by flames. So they decide to head instead to the next tallest structure nearby, a building called the Noble Tower. Raymond and Emma finally reach San Francisco, but the airport is already in flames, making it impossible to land conventionally. Raymond switches the plane to autopilot and the two prepare to jump. Emma is terrified, so Raymond straps her to him and they leap together. They land safely on a baseball field. But moments later, a massive aftershock hits. This one is far worse. Skyscrapers collapse, bridges fall apart, and the entire city shakes violently. Across the city, Ben is knocked down and badly cuts his leg on shattered glass. Ollie panics at the sight, and Blake tries to calm him as the destruction continues around them. The city is falling apart piece by piece. Buildings crumble, roads split open, and even the shoreline begins to shift. Raymond and Emma make their way through the streets, directing people toward the stadium, one of the few safer areas away from falling debris. When the shaking stops, they realize the roads are destroyed. Driving or walking isn't an option anymore. So they find a speedboat and head into the bay. On the water, Raymond sees the city skyline covered in smoke and fire. He believes Blake will look for the highest ground possible, just like he taught her. Then he notices the ocean starting to pull back. The water is receding, the sign of an incoming tsunami. At the same time, Blake hears an emergency alert warning of the tsunami. They don't have enough time to reach a designated shelter. Then she spots a tall construction project, a building Daniel had been working on. It is one of the few structures high enough to offer a chance of survival. Blake leads Ben and Ollie inside and upwards. Out at sea, dozens of boats try to escape the massive wave. Many of them are swallowed by the water. Raymond pushes forward, steering up the rising wall of the tsunami with everything he has. They crest the top, only to find themselves heading straight toward a massive cargo ship. Raymond swerves just in time, narrowly avoiding a collision. But the danger isn't over. Shipping containers begin crashing down around them. Raymond accelerates again, weaving through the falling steel until they make it out alive. Behind them, the cargo ship capsizes and slams into the Golden Gate Bridge, destroying it and taking countless lives, including Daniel and even the elderly couple they had met earlier. The tsunami surges into San Francisco, sweeping through the city and leveling everything in its path. Buildings are swallowed whole, streets disappear underwater, and debris is carried through the waves like nothing weighs anything at all. Blake, Ben, and Ollie reach the high-rise Daniel had been constructing and make their way to the upper floors. From there, they can see the enormous wall of water approaching. They take cover behind a large support pillar, bracing themselves. The building manages to stay standing, but the wave crashes through the windows, flooding the floors. They push upward again, climbing to safer levels as the water fills the lower parts of the structure. Not long after, Raymond and Emma arrive in the area. They see the destruction left behind. The city is nearly unrecognizable. Ollie looks out a window and spots Raymond and Emma in the speedboat below. He and Blake shout, but their voices are drowned out by the roar of water and collapsing structures. Blake suddenly remembers that Ollie kept a small laser pointer. They use it to signal the boat. The signal works, but before Raymond and Emma can get to them, another wave slams into the building. The windows burst and Blake, Ben, and Ollie are swept underwater. The two brothers swim toward a stairwell to escape, but Blake is trapped under the rushing water. Ben sends Ollie upward to stay safe and dives back to help her. At the same time, Raymond jumps from the boat and swims into the flooded building. He searches through broken walls and swirling debris until he finds Blake, unconscious and stuck inside a room filling with water. He forces his way in, frees her, and pulls her to the surface. There, he reunites with Ben and Ollie. Emma brings the boat in close. They climb aboard just before the building finally collapses behind them. On the deck, Raymond tries desperately to revive Blake. He calls her name and tries again and again, but nothing happens. He lowers his head, beginning to give up. Then he sees Emma crying over their daughter. With one more surge of hope, he tries again. This time, Blake finally gasps for air and wakes. Sometime later, the National Guard and international relief teams arrive to help survivors. The family stands together, along with Ben and Ollie, looking out over what remains of the city. They know the rebuilding will take time, but they also know they survived together, and now it is time to start again. So the moral of the story is, if your boyfriend runs away during an earthquake, girl, he was already an earthquake in your life. Drop him harder than the tectonic plates dropped California.